Hey everyone, Packy here, bringing you another forecast discussion recorded around 11:40 p.m. Eastern Time on Monday, March 11th. And today we will be discussing some interesting weather going on across the US. We've got severe weather today in parts of Kansas and Missouri, right here in this region. We've got severe weather tomorrow in this larger region here, covering much of Kansas, parts of Nebraska, Missouri, and into Oklahoma. And we've got severe weather on Thursday, some more significant potential severe weather here in southern Oklahoma and much of Texas, as well as a bit of a snow threat out west in parts of Colorado. So let's get right into it. Hey guys, just an update. The day 3 risk into Thursday and into Friday has been upgraded in the northern part of this risk in parts of Iowa, Illinois, and Missouri. And that includes a pretty significant risk for all severe hazards across both this region and the southern region covered in the video. So keep that in mind. So taking a look at the National Weather Service current hazards map to get a general idea of what's going on currently, we've got a large area throughout much of these Rocky Mountains here with winter weather advisories and a couple of sprinkled winter storm warnings and watches, as this trough is going to be moving into the region, providing us with all our weather out here in the plains, all our very interesting weather. And currently it is moving, just getting into the west coast, and some snowfall in the higher elevations is to be expected, as well as some areas, some pockets really, of some fairly strong winds, especially here along the Oregon coast where we have that high wind warning in place, as well as a bit of a departing system in the east. We've got a winter weather advisory really for one county up here in New Hampshire as I'm recording this video, and some high wind or really wind advisories for much of New Hampshire and parts of Maine, as this system will be exiting the picture, and these should be gone by tomorrow, and a nice warm-up is expected for much of the eastern half of the U.S., and that should be nice as we go into the spring months. So today, again, that severe threat, this is coming from the Storm Prediction Center, and make sure to pay attention to your local National Weather Service office for the best information pertinent to your location. This is just that. The Storm Prediction Center has issued a marginal risk for today's risk. This basically covers hail and wind, really no significant tornado threat out of this, and covering the regions I went over before. And we've got a much larger marginal risk covering southern parts of Nebraska here. We've got Missouri, Kansas, into Oklahoma, and even parts of North Texas near DFW. And I really am actually watching this risk for a bit of an upgrade, more on the northern end up in this region of this risk. So we'll keep an eye on that. I'll get more into the details as to why I think so later. But I do think this part of the risk could see some more significant severe weather and potentially even tornadoes. So keep a lookout if you're in this region. Despite having a marginal risk as of the time of recording this video, there could be some very interesting weather up there. And I'll go into some more of the uncertainties as to why this is a marginal risk. And then on day 4, we've got a 15%, which denotes a slight risk over, again, that parts of Texas, Oklahoma, Arkansas, and a little bit of Louisiana here. And this is going to be covering a potential all hazards threat and is something to watch for down the line. Again, this is covering Thursday into Friday, and currently this is still pretty far out in time as the time of recording this, and uncertainties remain fairly substantial. So something to watch, but the synoptic scale features look pretty good for this to become a pretty significant severe weather maker for all hazards, hail, wind, and tornadoes. So this map here is coming out of Colorado State University. I think it's a very good map to look at. It's a machine learning probabilities map based on some pretty new technology. And it can overestimate, I do say with caution a little bit. But it does give us a general idea of where the machine learning and AI thinks that this best probability of severe weather is, as far as at least parameters go. And that location would be really in this hatched area. This is a max probability of 0.43, which is the higher end of this, what really would correlate to an enhanced scale on SPC's website. And right now, the SPC is still going for a slight, but this just goes to show that this risk could be a little bit more significant, at least with the current parameters, the way the models are looking right now. But that could change with time, and it's just something to watch. And another thing that is interesting to watch here is we've got a slight risk, at least correlated slight risk on the MLP probabilities here, with a pretty high end, maximum here in parts of Mississippi. So we'll see how scoured the moisture gets after that first day, but we may see some thunderstorms again this is going to be Friday into Saturday of this week. So something to keep an eye on, but not a huge issue right now, more focused on this day to be more of a significant severe weather risk of all hazards. And we'll go into that right now. So taking you over to the North American model initialized at 0Z tonight. This is going to be valid for Wednesday through Thursday for the Wednesday and Thursday risk. And this is a great map to look at, 500 millibar height pattern, way up where the planes fly. It's a great map to look at, where your wind belts are, jet streams. And so taking a look here at the 0Z North American model, valid for Wednesday into Thursday. This is showing the 500 millibar height pattern and is indicative of that really interesting storm system we have diving down through this part of the trough as a result of this stronger flow on the western side. And we've got this interesting little cutoff feature, a little shortwave in here that cuts off and slowly meanders through Nebraska. And what that's essentially going to do is cause this enhanced area of winds in this level to persist over the Kansas region, Oklahoma, into the Texas Panhandle. And that's going to cause some rising motion really in this region for a pretty extended period of time. So that's why we're seeing today's risk and tomorrow's risk almost covering the exact same areas. And tomorrow's risk is going to involve more moisture, as we will have another day to advect moisture off of the Gulf of Mexico for tomorrow's risk. But as of right now, for today's risk, we do see that initial impulse move through right in there, and that is going to kind of rotate around, and this low is going to kind of close off, and that is going to enhance our low-level wind fields and potentially bring some enhanced severe weather into today's risk region, and then even more for tomorrow's risk region, really right just to the southeast of this area of low pressure at the 500 millibar height level. This is a fairly stacked low. And then for the day 4 risk, this main trough kind of swings a little bit further east, and another impulse races out ahead, and that is going to be what eventually causes our more major risk area further to the south, as this trough is diving pretty far to the south. So again, off of the NAM, this is showing further down the 850 millibar height pattern, further down in the atmosphere, about 5,000 feet off the ground from sea level, and up here it's even closer to the ground. This is showing basically your low-level jet field, and I'll get more into that later. But basically, that is going to be conducive for tornadoes if you get this low-level jet to really ramp up, and it can also bring in moisture from the south. This is a very important level for following supercell development and tornadoes, and even sometimes for hail and especially for wind. This is a very important level to look at. And you can see that as of right now on this particular model run, we get that low to move kind of up in this way and kind of just meander here in Nebraska. And again, just to the southeast of that low, of this low here, is going to be where our severe weather is going to be maximized in this region, I believe. So that is going to be the place to watch for potential tornadoes, and hail is definitely in the cards for this one, as well as wind, so all hazards. I do want to put a focus on this specific frame of the NAM at this level. And what's very interesting here is you have this belt of enhanced flow. We're talking 30 to 35 knots, and maybe even up to 40 knots in some of these regions, right in here in Nebraska and Kansas. in northern Kansas. And this is very interesting, as it's also kind of backed right into this 850 low, and that's going to be very conducive. That's going to help with directional shear, as you saw up in the 500 millibar height pattern. The winds were racing across like this, but when you get these winds coming out of the southeast like this, at the 850 level, which typically this happens more at the surface due to friction, but if it's happening even up at 850, that's some very good directional shear, really right in the mesocyclone region of a storm. And if you can get even more shear like this at the surface, which is definitely in the cards, you can get some pretty interesting structure on thunderstorms as well as potential tornadoes. And I'm definitely watching this for a more significant risk for that reason. So this is a map showing our moisture in the form of dew point. And you can see that moisture advection around this little high pressure over here, really big high pressure, and the low that forms up in Nebraska and Kansas and kind of slowly shifts off. And it's very interesting. You see that first little low move off here. That's going to be our risk for today. And then the more stronger low moves off like this right there. And that is going to be very interesting for pulling up more moisture, specifically for that second risk, and that's going to increase our instability in the region and allow for that stretching in the vertical of our updrafts and even our tornadoes if they do form. And when you get those updrafts to be stronger, you can also increase the hail risk, and the wind risk associated with that stronger low-level jet is going to be definitely in place. And of course, this is also the NAM. There are other models, and there's definitely some uncertainty with regard to these models, and I'll get to that shortly here. So putting all those variables together, this is a fantastic plot here on Pivotal Weather that shows surface-based instability. That's what this cape is really referring to, as well as hodographs. And these are both very important things to look at for tornadoes, as well as for hail and even wind. You can get some good idea from this. What we're looking at here is you've got your front and probably dry line right in here, extending down into Texas, and a bit of a cold front probably out in here in this region along this kind of boundary here, and that warm front up to the north. And that warm front is really what I'm going to be watching for right in this region, as well as the potentially along the cold front and dry line. There could be some interesting action, but I think the warm front is where the storms are going to form, and that's going to be the most important thing to watch for. This is going to be also for the this is valid for Wednesday. Tomorrow's risk is valid for Wednesday at in the evening time, and this is going to be a very important area to watch, definitely for interesting weather. I pulled up a forecast sounding. This is going to be an area average sounding over that this entire region here. And some of the more notable things to point out here, which is increasing our uncertainty, which is why this is a big part of why this is a marginal risk right now. This little area right here, there's a bit of a capping inversion. You see how this temperature line is going to be in red, the dew points in green. You see how this temperature line extends up, but then kind of takes a shift off to the right of the screen, and then back up to the left. And essentially what this is a elevated mixed layer in the region, and specifically this is a very warm elevated mixed layer, and that can cause storms to basically just not form. And when you get storms that don't form, obviously there is no risk to be had. There's not even a chance for even rain. And that is something that SPC takes into account into their risks, uncertainty on formation, even though we've got plenty of, again, that cape, which is going to be your instability in the region right in here. This is, plenty of instability, good updrafts, good lower level instability, a really nice hodograph, lots of curvature, great storm relative helicity. These are all just parameters that are very conducive for tornadoes, and even pretty good upper level shear as well. Basically, I mean, this hodograph is just showing your shear, showing all the wind vectors at each specific level up to about 8 kilometers. And what you can see here is that we've just got that interesting inversion here that could cause an issue in storm formation. And even though there are great parameters out there, we might have an issue with storm formation, and we'll have to see if forcing associated with that 850 millibar low that we saw before up in Nebraska, we'll have to see if that forcing can overcome this little inversion here, and or at least raise this inversion higher in the atmosphere. And when that happens, typically it can be overcome. I do think currently that this will be overcome, and I am pretty adamant in saying that we will be seeing some interesting severe weather out of this setup, more than just a marginal risk would warrant. And that is fairly well supported on some of the convective allowing model guidance, at least the ones that we have right now. This is a look at some of the reflectivities off of the convective allowing guidance. And right now, the North American model that I was just showing you some of the parameters on doesn't have much precip, much storm activity in this region for that same time. Going to be Thursday afternoon into the evening hours. But I do notice that some of the other models have significantly more, like such as right here, significantly more storm activity associated with all of these storms here. The FV3 has a lot, and now this model, take it into a grain of salt. This typically overdoes storm activity, but and specifically supercell discrete activity. But it's still interesting to see even the high resolution rapid refresh has got a little bit of an area here, and the RRFS has here or there small pockets. Again, it's going to be interesting to watch for storm coverage, and that's the reason why it's only a marginal risk right now. But there's certainly a conditional risk for some pretty significant severe weather, and potentially even tornadoes, and maybe even a strong one. So keep an eye on that. To quickly compare, going back to that, specifically this frame at hour 48 on the HRRR, this is going to be another high-resolution rapid refresh, another good convective allowing model. You can see that there is some discrepancy in that little belt of southeasterly flow here. It's still southeasterly, but this low is a little further south. Instead of up in Nebraska, it's in northern Kansas. And that's something to watch for. If this doesn't make it up further to the north, that whole risk area is going to shift further south instead of in Nebraska. And it's really going to be important to watch observational trends as we go into this particular severe event. And right now, the HRRR has a pretty similar scenario in terms of the strength of this low, but some of these winds are a little bit weaker, so it's important to watch that. Additionally, it does have that similar look of this dry line, and then this kind of area of more higher instability to the north, with some decent shear in the region associated with these hodographs. And this is going to be, again, very important to watch this warm front here for any tornadic activity. And wherever storms form in this region, we could get some pretty significant weather out of it. So definitely, as far as the instability goes, the high-resolution rapid refresh does agree pretty well with the North American model. So instability and moisture should be present for this event. Moving on to the day 4 risk, as I'm recording this video, more like the day 3 risk when this goes up, it'll be for Thursday into Friday. This is probably going to be a little bit more of a nocturnal risk early Friday morning. So it should be very interesting to watch. What we're seeing here is the 850 millibar level. Again, this is off of the North American model. And essentially what this shows is, again, that low-level jet picking up in this region, specifically really after the 0Z hour, which is going to be heading into the evening and late evening and overnight period. And what essentially is going on here is you're seeing this low level jet pick up due to not only this deeper trough kind of move into the region and enhance the low level flow, but also as you move into nighttime, you get a stronger low level jet. And what this can do is add tornado juice really to these storms and potentially spin them up faster and stronger. And that's something definitely to watch for this risk. All hazards are on the table, but I am watching this low-level jet for the possibility of tornadoes. Whether or not storms form, storm formation and initiation is going to be tough to predict at this time frame. Looking out 4 days from when I'm recording this. So this is an interesting graphic here that shows that low-level jet and specifically how it changes when you get into the nighttime hours versus the daytime hours. And over the eastern plains where this specific severe weather event is taking place, eastern Texas, during the nighttime, you get warmer air compared to the western plains where it's much higher in the atmosphere. You can get radiational cooling to happen quicker at higher elevations, and that essentially just cools the air faster over these higher elevations, whether it's even the flat terrain or the mountainous terrain over here. This is kind of representing the Rocky Mountains. And essentially what that causes is air to flow from this warmer air to the colder air along the same pressure surface. And one of the forces that guides our weather on Earth, really, one of the main fundamental forces is called this Coriolis force. And that just essentially turns all this wind to the right of motion. So that is going to just enhance the southerly flow. It turns it right really into the page. So if you think about it on this screen, you've got this wind coming in here and then it turns into the page instead of up. Think of that as into the page. And that is from the eastern plains to the western plains. Right here through here is going to be southerly flow in this region, really kind of right in here. And when you get that southerly flow to really pick up at night, and that is very important for potentially increasing the odds of tornadogenesis in this region. So very interesting dynamics that go on here, and I thought it was something interesting to share. Finally here, we've got a little look at some of the progs for initiation on this day. Again, it's going to be very hard to watch this as we're still very far out. I'm looking at the very end of the North American model, regional model. But it does want that initiation to happen later in the day, which is important to watch for, as the low-level jet is not strong earlier in the day, and specifically really as you are in the afternoon hours. But when you get into the evening, when that sun is setting, and you get that cooling out west, especially associated with this snow we have here, that cooling out west is going to enable those winds to really pick up here in the severe weather setup, and that could result in tornadogenesis in here. So this will be something very close to watch. And I think this day has the highest significant severe risk out of all of the days. But certainly watching Wednesday as well as Thursday for this risk, and really into Friday morning. Something else interesting you've seen on this map with this severe weather forming here is we've got this really interesting snow going on out west with that associated with that trough that's moving in. And that's what I'm going to talk about now as we get into Colorado. Lots of snow is going to be seen out there. And I think something important to watch for is, again, with this map, we've got this low that just really hangs around and doesn't move very fast. And then we've got this other low that kind of pivots in this region, sending a lot of forcing for lift, as well as just a low pressure that's just going to stall out in this region and kind of bring that flow around it on the northern side right up against the Rocky Mountains, because it's going to be stalling out here. So that's going to be coming around like this. And when you get that up against the Rocky Mountains, you can get some pretty good upslope flow, which essentially is going to dump snow across the region, all the way across the Front Range, through parts of Mexico, up into really especially the plains of eastern Colorado, a little bit in the mountains as well in western Colorado, and then even into parts of western Nebraska. We could have severe weather going on in the southeast part and then winter weather going on in the western part. So something to watch. As I said, that low is really just going to kind of meander here and stall out. This is covering 3 days from Wednesday through Friday. And, you know, a place to watch here is Denver, located right about here. The snow just kind of stalls over the region for several hours. This is 3 hours at a time. Really 2 days of moderate to heavy snowfall over the region. And so we could see totals pick up pretty high. This is looking at a bunch of different model simulations for how much snow we could get in the region using the Kuchera method. And the European has got 7 inches with, 15 inches plus not too far away to the south. And also in the mountains, the Front Range could be seeing 25, 30 inches out of this, 2 to 3 feet. And, switching between the models, 7, 10, 11, 13, 7 again, 7, and 12. So really anywhere between 7 to 10 inches, with potentially more in the Denver metro. With more really to the south, Colorado Springs could see some more out of this. So definitely something to watch for, as Denver could be getting dumped with snow as we get into Friday, Thursday, well really Wednesday, Thursday, and into Friday. In this region. So I hope you did enjoy this forecast discussion, and if you did learn something and enjoyed, please be sure to leave a like, subscribe. I would really appreciate it, and watch the 2 videos on your screen right now. If you did enjoy and want to support us by watching some of our other content, would be much appreciated. With that said, thank you so much for watching, and I'll talk to you in the next forecast discussion.